So, in my Steven Universe Future Imperfect video, I talked about, and at I'm more like I asked you guys, and basically said, hey, this idea was kind of spawned from reading Peter David's storyline of the new Maestro miniseries he's been doing, and I basically said, hey, if you guys want, I will do a review of the 2 volumes of Maestro that have come out. And some of you guys said yes, and I was like, you know what, I will do a review of not just this volume, but the 2, not just one story, I'll do both stories in one review. Because I feel like there's not enough material to really do like a big, in-depth review, and they feel interconnected enough to be like a 10-issue series, when really it's 2 5-issue miniseries. So there's 2 different storyline miniseries so far, and there will be a 3rd one, and I'll get to that in a moment. Later on. But basically, so far, the first story is called Maestro Symphony in a Gamma Key, and then the second story is called War in Pax. Now, for those who were wondering who the Maestro is basically an evil dictator version of the Hulk. And the Hulk in this era, came from a story called Future Imperfect, which was this 2-part story in which Banner, who had merged with the Hulk into one being, encountered the Maestro, his future self. The 2 fought. He managed to kill him in a nuclear bomb, but you know how Marvel is. They can't leave a good character down. Obviously, the Maestro's been appearing a lot, and I actually, real quick, kind of am hoping we get the Maestro in a What If story in the next season of Marvel What If. Side note, also a little more promotion. If you want to know my review, my thoughts on Marvel What If, hit the link below to join my Patreon and check out that Patreon exclusive of Marvel What If. Check out that review. Anyway, these 2 miniseries and the upcoming 3rd one are basically like origin stories of what happened in the Marvel universe in the Maestro's timeline, and how the Maestro came to power, and how the Hulk got to that point. You know, what made him evil and whatnot. So the story is that the Hulk awakens. The Hulk basically awakens in the control of AIM, but then he discovers that MODOK is just old and dying. And MODOK reveals to Hulk that he saved him along with a few other people, and saved him from a nuclear holocaust. And the Hulk's like, wait, who did this? Who did this? Was it Red Skull? Hydra? And MODOK says, no, you fucking idiot. It was the governments. They literally, all the world powers, went on with World War III and nuked the planet to everything. And MODOK's like, look, just stay. We've got enough resources. But the Hulk's like, no, there has to be more out there. So the Hulk leaves. And I gotta say, in the very first issue of Symphony in a Gamma Key, Hulk basically talks about how, literally, Peter David goes for the throat right out the gate. Peter David goes right for the throat in the story. Because he basically says, what do we do? What do superheroes do? Because mankind just destroys itself. It can't stop itself from destroying itself. Literally, where were superheroes when 9/11 happened? He literally says this in the comic. Where were superheroes when 9/11 happened? Or when Sadie Hook happened? Or, literally, he goes straight for the throat. There's where Hulk basically in his monologue says, oh, gotta check out what the Red Skull's doing. Never mind what happens in a mass shooting in a school. And I'm like, god damn. Yes, I know there is the Spider-Man comic that does talk about 9/11, but Hulk basically points out, we didn't stop it. The superheroes couldn't, where were we? We picked up the damage, but, we didn't stop it. We clearly didn't stop, we basically, in this timeline, he sees that mankind didn't care anything, and all the superheroes died for nothing. So the Hulk finds his way into dystopia, he finds his way to dystopia, and he encounters the Maestro. Yeah, he didn't start out as the Maestro. It's a title that he got. Who did he get it from? He actually got it from Hercules. Yeah, Hercules survived the war. And in fact, another superhero survived as well, Machine Man, It's a character I actually enjoy seeing. I'm like, hey, Machine Man, I like seeing him. He's a fun character. But yeah, Hercules is the original Maestro, and he's gone insane. He's basically gone crazy, and yeah, Hulk is essentially now like trying to usurp Hercules, and I'm not going to spoil how he takes power and becomes the Maestro from Hercules, but it is really cool. There's also a few backup stories in Symphony and a Gamma Key where essentially they talk about in Future Imperfect how Rick Jones got his collection of superhero items. So that was a lot of fun. So, yeah. The, where was I going with this? So, that was the first volume. The first volume was a lot of fun. I will say, it's a really cool story, and what I love about this is that this is not an anti-hero story. This is in no way an anti-hero story. This is a villain story. Like, as I love the Hulk, the Hulk, for those who know me, the Hulk is my favorite superhero, but seeing him as a villain is a lot of fun. Like, seeing him become the Maestro and more or less just terrify people and just be a downright bastard is a lot of fun. Peter David clearly has a lot of fun writing these. They're not it's much like how he writes Symbiote Spider-Man. Not a lot of continuity, nothing he really needs to follow. There's these fun miniseries that he can just do whatever he wants. He built this. He basically built the Maestro timeline, so he can do whatever the fuck he wants with it. And yeah, he just makes Hulk a bastard, and it's awesome. Like, this is not like your typical villain book where it's like, oh, this is, there is some complex thought there, but like at the same time. It's not like your typical anti-hero where it's like you sympathize for him. No, Hulk's a monster through and through, like both inward and outward. The one thing that does bother me, and this carries into the second volume too, is that both miniseries are 5 issues each, but what happens is that for 5 issues each, the passage of time, you don't, like, it's non-existent. Like, it said, like, they briefly mentioned that the Hulk's been gone for months, and this is how he builds his army from Alchemex. Great little shout-out to Peter David's work in Spider-Man 2099, because Alchemex was the big villain for Miguel O'Hara, so it's a nice little tie-in to that. It's the one problem is, again, time just kind of flies by. But anyway, so there's more or less the review for Symphony and a Gamma Key. Now, War and Pax continues on with Hulk continuing his conquest of the world, and Hulk is even more scarier in the second volume, because at the start of the second volume, he more or less encounters like a resistance group in what's left of Connecticut, and he's like, when they go like, shoot him, kill him, and he's like, no, you don't do it like that, no one's gonna take you seriously. You have to like underscore and say it with like a firm, stoic tone, so you can so your opponents will know they'll die screaming, and your enemies will just rip into you even harder. Watch. Kill them. And it's awesome. There's also a really fucked up scene in here that I'm not going to spoil shortly after that one, but yeah. So the second volume more or less deals with more or less the Maestro encountering the Pantheon. Now, if you're not if you've never really read a lot of Peter David's run in the Hulk, the Pantheon was basically a group of these demigods who teamed up with the Hulk, and he went on missions for them. So the Pantheon have teamed up with a time-traveling Doctor Doom to take out the Maestro. And even though this is called War and Pax, and in here, the Maestro is talking about how his idea for Pax is that he's going to just more or less just wipe out everyone, or they're going to join him unwillingly or willingly. But we don't really get to see a lot of the Pax stuff outside of his encounter with Machine Man. It's more about him encountering the Pantheon and fighting them. I will say that the second volume's a little more weaker because it doesn't really expand on the idea of his his goal to conquer everything. But there is a really sick fight between him and Doom at the end. So yeah. All in all, really fun. I really love this. Again, Peter David really gets to have his own little corner. It seems like Peter David got to have like his own little corner in the Marvel Comics where he just gets to do these miniseries every so often, and he just gets to play around and have a lot of fun with these characters. Again, with Symbiote Spider-Man. No real continuity. Even the King in Black tie-in was more or less like was basically a series where you could just still have the sandbox in it. And again, that feels like what's going on with the Maestro series as well, where it's just he gets to play around in a universe of the corner of the Marvel universe that he essentially built, so he can basically make up the rules however he damn well chooses. I know some people have complained like that's not how it works. I'm like, dude, fucking he made the universe. He made this dystopian timeline with the evil Hulk. He can do it. Peter David could do whatever he wants. In fact, it's Peter David. He could still fucking do whatever he wants. Do I recommend this? That's the $1 million question. Do I recommend these two miniseries? It really depends on how much you're a fan of the Peter David Hulk run. If you were like me, and pretty much everyone who's ever read Hulk, you're really going to love the Peter David Hulk stuff in here and all the little references to not just his work to the Hulk stuff he did, but also the other stuff, like I said with Spider-Man 2099 and all that. You're really going to enjoy that. But some of this, like the Pantheon and Alchemex and whatever, that's going to bother some people and that might hinder some people. But if you've at least read Future Imperfect, you've literally figured out this whole thing. Like, that's all you really need to read. In fact, I do recommend Hulk Future Imperfect. It's a nice little two-part story that you can actually read in trade along with Hulk the End. They did a cool little like paperback of combining those two stories together into the Hulk the End series. And I'm really excited for this for the third volume, which seems to be building itself as the last volume, because that's going to be Maestro taking on the Abomination for rulership of dystopia. Spoiler alert, I think I know who wins. Anyway, so once again, there you go. There's my review of not just the first two miniseries of the Maestro miniseries. If you've read them, comment below, let me know. And as always, hit the link below to my Patreon for some more exclusive video content over on there. And other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.